So, y'all might have noticed I haven't been around for a while. Yeah, sorry about that. I had a video on something a little corpusy planned that was supposed to come out before Fortuna, but well, it grew into a two-parter, and it obviously didn't make it before Fortuna came out, and I felt the first thing I should do post-Fortuna should be, well, about Fortuna. So, yeah, that's what happened. Those two videos should be coming out over the next couple of days, and I hope you enjoy them. But as for this one, it's about Limbo on Fortuna. Specifically, it's a guide to all the mission types that have been implemented, what enemies you should be aware of, and anything else specific to Limbo that I thought was worth mentioning. I hope you all enjoy, and, well, let's get started. Now, before we actually start covering the enemies and mission types, let's talk about one major weird thing that definitely caught me off guard when I first entered the new area. Specifically, while I'd normally suggest small bubbles when dealing with Corpus, in the Orb Vallis you will want larger sized cataclysms. Maybe not massive ones, I mean my 124% range build is usually enough, and since there are enemies here that ignore stasis and some who can also shut down Cataclysm, you will want to save some room in your build for durability. But since there are no missions tied to Fortuna content that benefit in any significant way from having a small bubble size, I really do have to suggest you leave the small Cataclysm setups on the Orbiter. As for the troublesome types of enemies and objects, there's actually 5 to worry about, and they are all tied at least somewhat to the alert level. The first of these is the alert poles themselves. These cannot be cataclysmed, so you will need to either drop your bubble, swap to your operator, or shoot from outside of Cataclysm to actually destroy them. And it's probably a good thing to break them whenever you're dealing with the non-murdery types of objectives, because a fair number of the enemies that come out after the alert levels raised can ignore stasis. Specifically, the hyenas and jackals, as well as both of the larger forms of arachnoids, are all capable of ignoring stasis. So be prepared to fight them, as even if they enter your bubble, they will have almost all of their normal combat capability, with the interesting exception of the Jackal's miniguns, which are actually stopped by stasis even if the Jackal himself is not. As for the last enemy you need to worry about with Limbo specifically, well, it's the formerly humble Shield Osprey. Yeah, these are not the same types as appear in the normal missions, as instead of giving a small buff to the enemy's shields, these guys can apply nullifier bubbles to anything they're attached to. So if you see one, kill them immediately because they will shut down any strategy that you attempt. Now that we've got the enemies out of the way, there's only one last thing I want to talk about before we swap to the actual missions themselves, and it's just a cool little thing that I noticed that probably won't be too helpful for general play, but is quite awesome for K-Drive races. If you are in the Rift when you summon your K-Drive, you'll appear to leave the Rift when you get on it. However, you'll actually still be in the Rift and immune to all of the normal enemies. Even better, everything you need to do with the K-Drives, including races and tricks, are still completely possible while in the Rift. So yeah, I'm guessing this is a bug that DE will fix soon, but for the moment, have fun with your uninterruptible races. Alright, now that we've covered the general stuff, let's talk about individual strategies used for each mission type, and we will start with this annoying drone who currently cannot be banished. I don't know why DE decided he can't be banished, but since he can be cataclysmed, Limbo is still probably the frame that is best able to protect it. If you're ever worried about the drone getting attacked, just try and figure out where the thing's headed, and drop a stasis cataclysm on its path. That'll keep it safe for like 20 seconds or so, depending on bubble size and positioning, and then it'll move out of range and you'll need to move your cataclysm, but if you can keep up with the energy cost for doing this and keep any of the alert-based enemies from getting near it, the drone will never take damage. Grail drive ambushes are also pretty simple, though there is, again, an issue that I hope DE fixes. Placing a cataclysm on a coil drive, even if it completely covers them, will not protect them from damage. However, if you've got decent range, it should still keep any enemies from getting close enough to actually do real damage to the objective. So while Limbo is going to be somewhat worse about protecting the machine than a Frost or Gara or even a Vara with her stealth arrow, he's still going to be within the top 5 or so frames for this mission type, and he can usually handle it just fine. Now, let's step away from the two places with weird Limbo issues and talk about a mission where Limbo is probably the single best option. That annoying crate grabbing mission that pug groups actually fail from time to time. By placing a stasis cataclysm over a crate, or 2 crates, or as many as you can fit in your bubble, You can prevent enemies from approaching them, and so capture them at your leisure. And remember, you can cast Cataclysm at range, which means you don't need to be on top of whatever crate or crates you're trying to protect. But there is something you guys should be aware of here. Somehow, stasis does not stop enemies from capturing the crates. Apparently, Frozen Corpus can still steal things. It's really rather impressive, and I've got to give them credit for being such master thieves, but yeah, you will need to kill any Corpus that are capturing crates rather than just dropping a Cataclysm and ignoring them. This is probably the mission type where bubble size is at its most important, but my 124% range build is usually adequate here. As for excavation, drop a bubble on an excavator or two if you have the range for that, and fill up any excavators that you are not protecting first. Since they buffed the health for the excavators so much here, you don't really need to worry too much as long as you keep an eye on their health and kill anything that you see. Just be prepared to swap your bubble to a different excavator if one does start to take too much damage, and you'll be good. Finally, let's move on to open world spy missions, where absolutely nothing has really changed from the normal versions of spy, except that your teams are extra likely to screw you, and the spy zones are usually quicker. Just turn on stasis and either banish everything or Cataclysm and Rift Surge it, Rift Walk through any lasers, and hack the terminals. And I believe that's it for the mission types that have anything unique about them for Limbo. The others are all things like hunt crash drop pods that you can find either by sound or by looking for the smoke, kill a certain amount of enemies that you can do by, killing a certain amount of enemies, or just loot credits until a target shows up and gets himself murdered. They're all pretty simple, and there's really nothing for me to talk about with them. Anyways, that's my quick little guide to the Orb Vallis. I hope it was helpful, and I'm sorry that I left the channel alone for as long as I did. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you learned anything, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. Farewell.
What are you doing? I'm not experiencing any bugs. Knock yourself out. It'll get you out of the bug. Wow, this is a great start.